I live in two worlds. One is a world of books.
Hello and welcome to our first episode of Talking BAK. This is Ricky. I have stolen the host microphone from Joshua.
In this one, I'm Joshua.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. It's classy.
I'm classy.
True.
Here at Talking BAK, we are all about books of all kinds. So we're not talking smack here. We are talking BAK. We are talking about books that have been or will be adapted into movie or TV. So what are we starting with, Josh?
We are starting with the 2003 novel Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. It has sold over 2 million copies worldwide in the 2-ish years that it's been released. I guess it would be over 2 since you have to count the calendar year of the initial year. So it's had over 730 days on bookshelves, store shelves, whatever you want to call it at this point.
That's a lot of rereads. I have to admit, though, this one blew up pretty quickly.
Yeah, it really did.
Fourth Wing, Iron Flame came out the same year, 23.
Which I didn't know that. That's impressive.
Yeah, you got them both for me for my birthday that year.
I don't remember. I just buy them off your Amazon wish list.
And they sat on a shelf until recently. I tend to stay away from a lot of the trendy things, but something called to me on this one. Not only did I steal your host mic, but I also stole your Audible.
We're married. We just share it. It's not stealing. In terms of the Audible, my mic, yes, I want that back.
Maybe. I needed something to do for my marathon training, so I said maybe I can go to War College and fight to encourage me to run 26 miles. So here we are. Got the bright idea in those miles to wrangle you into this as well and make you read.
Listen to audiobook, yeah.
Well, it's still considered reading.
It's reading in a sense, yes.
Yes, it is. So what else did we find out about this? There are going to be 5 books in the Empyrean series.
It was originally planned as a trilogy, but I think after she got through Iron Flame, she realized that she could not finish it in 3 books. So she expanded it to 5, kind of like what happened with Aragon, where it was going to be the Inheritance trilogy, and then it became the Inheritance cycle because Paolini realized that he couldn't finish the story in just one more book.
Always bringing it back to Aragon.
I have to.
So we have 3 books out. The third one, Onyx Storm, just coming out this year. Just to be clear, we've only read the first one.
And full spoilers for the first book.
Yes.
I think we need to divulge that as well. Once we start discussing the book, we're going to be going full on spoilers with this.
And please don't come after us if we hopefully won't Tamlin anything over here.
I understood that reference.
I also made him read Ekatar. Please go indulge your senses in all of the romantasy, fantasy books that we talk about. I'm making Josh read them. You should too.
Romantasy?
Romantasy, yeah.
Okay.
Romance fantasy?
Yeah, romantasy. I like it.
Uh-huh. My favorite.
Because they spicy.
Just enough. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the book before we get into our opinion on a adaptation. I guess we should say the book was picked up by Prime Video.
You had mentioned it as the Michael B. Jordan's production company, which hopefully that's a sign of quality since he has such a history with Ryan Coogler. So hopefully he's kind of carried over some of that storytelling and which it's just his production company. So like Michael B. Jordan actually has a hand in it. But you were actually doing some of the usual legwork that I would do for my podcast, which is you found out that the showrunner had worked on Breaking Bad and one other show that was fairly notable, but I can't remember now.
I'm terrible at names, at least like real people names, characters' names. I got you. But real people. It was Moira something hyphenated.
I couldn't tell you. I don't remember. I just remember you saying she worked on Breaking Bad. It's like, okay, she's worked with Terry Gilliam. She should know how to make a good story, and she's working with something that has good bones.
Yeah. I saw a interview with Rebecca Yarros. It had to have been recently. She did say that she read through the pilot script and she is very excited about it. So hopefully that means good things in our future. It's going to be a couple of years though. So you have plenty of time to read.
It's a streaming story or streaming adaptation. So yeah, it's going to be like 3 years between production. So they're going to be 20 somethings at the start of the series, and there'll be 30 somethings when it's only supposed to be a year later when season 2 comes out.
Yeah. So hopefully this review isn't too premature. But we're having fun anyway here.
And then the other thing I think we wanted to clarify before we really dived.
Finish the sentence. Maybe we'll figure it out.
Before we really dive into the discussion, let's put it that way. The initial concept that we have for this podcast is it will release quarterly. So 4 books a year to start. We'll see how people respond.
We gotta start Josh slow.
Yeah, blame me. So we're going to start quarterly, and this first episode will be releasing in June. The next episode will be late October.
I think it said September.
September? Oh yeah, spoiler alert, it's Wicked. Just in time for the Wicked SEO.
He's so excited for it. He's already read it.
I needed to know what happened to Fiyero. I've seen the musical, but the book was different, so we need to talk about it. I would have been fine recording out of order, but you didn't want to go that far.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be releasing quarterly, and the next one will release in September, and then what would the next one be then? That would be October. Christmas time, yeah.
Yeah. So throw us your suggestions. What else?
Yeah, what do you want us to read in December? We'll get there.
What do you want to make Josh read?
Remember, the more romantasy, the better for Ricky.
Yay.
So, reactions to the book. So, do you want me to start with my reactions, or do you want to kick?
Yes, I've been dying to know.
So, the first 29 chapters, I think, are all really, really good. I think it's 2/3 really good. The romance stuff, I did not really enjoy. The romance stuff is super tropey. It is really undercut by a lot of just it almost felt like she was told, like, hey, throw a romance story into this dragon military school story you wrote because no one's going to read this otherwise. And I don't think that's true at all. Maybe it's just because of the audiobook. I thought the narrator did a really great job of conveying the emotion and, like, in certain situations, the urgency of the situation or like the terror in certain parts. I thought she did a really great job of raising her intensity with certain lines. And she also went the extra mile and did some like voice acting with certain lines as well. But the romance stuff was super tropey. And one of the things when I take in media, take in stories, I always try to find the tropes to see how the story circumvents it or how they alter it to make it unique to itself. This book really undercut a lot of that really quickly, like in chapter 2, where Violet, our main character, is climbing the parapet, which is this at first trial that they have for this dragon military school. And she sees bad boy Zayden, who has a grudge against her. And then at some point during this trial as well, maybe I'm a little out of order, but like there's also this guy, Jack, who is like, hey, I'm going to kill you. Just so you know, I'm the bad guy. But she's also like, oh God, there's another bad guy who's going to kill me. But the rule of tropes and the rule of storytelling is there's really only one bad guy. And so when this guy, Jack, literally throws another student off a cliff in this parapet, you're like, oh, he's irredeemable. He's the bad guy. Mm-hmm. So the other bad guy that she thinks wants to kill him, she's only being told this through secondhand information. He's already in love with her probably. And that's pretty much it. Like there's no real ambiguity with it. I think Rebecca Yarros plays it really smooth with forcing Violet's perspective on the reader. So like you always see it as, oh God, this guy's coming after me. And I think it's portrayed really well because again, it's all Violet's perspective. So all you have is her point of view for these scenarios. But from a storytelling standpoint, he is not even like the enemy to lover trope. It's just like this guy's obsessed with her from the get-go because you already have the irredeemable bad guy that is just going to try and kill her. She's going to kill him at the end of the book, and that's fine.
And it's like time and time again, every time he gets brought up, it's a more critical point, and it's almost like part of Violet's growth is through her interactions with Jack Barlow and like how she's able to defeat him over and over and over at a more difficult challenge each time.
Yeah, it escalates in severity of how he's coming after her because she's not even supposed to be there. She's supposed to be a scribe. She's undersized. She's got like brittle bone disease or something. Like she is very easily broken and she should not be doing this Marine Corps training. But here she is, the librarian that went off to become a Marine, which is why I think you like her so much as well.
Yeah. We all have our flaws, but yeah, it resonated with me pretty closely there. Yeah, so we have our two main characters. We have Violet, we have Xaden. To give a little bit of background, Bezgaeth is the war college. There are 4 quadrants. What?
No way.
So you have the regular infantry, you have healers, you have the scribes, and then the rider quadrant, which is where most of the story takes place here. So riders are unique, they're special, they're much fewer, and it's their opportunity to bond with a dragon that makes this so special. And it's very high risk.
15% don't even make it through the parapet, which I think they said through Violet's trial with that, I think they said 18%. Like it was even a little bit
higher
more.
Because of the rain and everything.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. And you also have a psychopath named Jack Barlow running around throwing people off ledges.
Yeah. Then they get, paraded around the dragons. The dragons can decide at any time that they want to just have a char crisp meal. And then people are killing people, breaking arms in hand-to-hand.
It was very
organized
divergent.
Competition.
Like with the Divergent, was it Dauntless class where they just are like encouraged to kill each other and beat each other up through the training process?
The final trial is the Gauntlet, which in my mind, I vision the Gauntlet as kind of an inline, like you cross some form of inclining land up to something that is pretty much straight up, and everything's lined up, every obstacle that they talk about on the Gauntlet. I've seen other people's kind of image of this, like AI created images of the Gauntlet, and it's hanging off cliffs and like winding and like going far along a ridge line or something, and it's not at all what I had pictured in my head.
Yeah, I think visualizing the Gauntlet was a little difficult, and same thing with the parapet. Like I couldn't get a good grasp on it because the narrator is emoting through Violet's perspective and like the craziness of what she's experiencing. I could never really get a good grasp on it, but yeah, finding fan art or AI generated art on it probably isn't going to be something that's going to give you a good visualization on that.
Because they talked about, second and third years being able to observe along their stairs on the side, and it made it feel like you could see all the obstacles all at once. But yeah, then all this other pictures I've seen, just no. So be very interested to see how that gets adapted. But.
Yeah, I think I always, or when I was listening to it and visualizing it when I could get a really, what I felt was a good grasp, like my brain just went, Avatar floating mountains. Like they just built an obstacle course on those, so they still have the opportunity for them to just plummet to their death if they have to, because there is a moment where Violet has to climb like the Ninja Warrior ramp that's like 10 feet tall, and she's 5'0", so she's obviously a little overmatched with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the catch with all of that is that if she can't get the top of the wall, she's going to just plummet. So that part I think was at least pretty well described and was able to visualize that really well. But what is surrounding or encasing the Gauntlet, I'm very curious to see how that gets adapted when we see that in 3 years or more.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we arrive at the school, we do the parapet, we have some classes, we have some hand-to-hand that goes on. There's some broken things, there's some heated discussions. We have the dragon walk, which I'm pretty sure I would pee my pants if I had to do that kind of introduction. So you're walked single file with your squad through this to parade in front of the dragons who are hoping to bond this year.
They're willing to bond.
Willing to, yeah.
And I think that's one of the cool things, too, is that all the dragons are essentially like veterans. It's very rare to find a dragon that has not been bonded before. And one of the parts of the lore that they throw in there is that each bond is stronger than the previous. So that's a lot of really cool stuff that I enjoy. And then they add in the fact that a dragon can live without a rider, but a rider cannot live without a dragon. So like the minute you're bonded to a dragon, your life force is tied to that dragon. If they die, you're gone. But if you're gone, they're fine because they're dragons. Like they
depending on the bond, right?
True, because that's
they
a big
could go kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's a big part of the latter half of the book. Once Violet gets through everything, which that's something I really liked about the book, is that it did a kind of a double swerve on us where they see this little golden dragon, I think even during the initial walk.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, cool. It's going to be an underdog story. Violet's going to get the tiny dragon that can like barely hold a human, and she's barely big enough for a normal sized person. So
right. I was like, that's hers, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
No big.
They're going to be underdogs, and they're going to come and save the day.
Right. And they were talking about, but it's a feather tail. So the dragons, they have different color scales, which means that they have different kinds of innate abilities. And then they have different tails. So like sword tail, I don't even remember the other ones.
I couldn't, like scorpion tail. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different ones. I think we'll get into it. I think the diagram shows that one of them has like almost like a mace tail.
Oh, yep. So yeah, this little golden dragon is a feather tail. So I was like, it's going to be some sort of other kind of concept. It's not going to be a like lethal power
like
that
psychological or something, or like heavy mage usage,
right?
Or in like a healer class sort of thing. Like there's a whole mess of things that they could have done with that. And then once they do the bonding ceremony called the threshing, Jack Barlow and his gang of thugs, they decide they're going to kill the feathertail because it's too small. It's going to cause problems. And so Violet goes and...
Just such a dumb concept.
It really is. But they have to put over the fact that he is just absolutely evil and continues to be evil. Throwing an unnamed student off a cliff in the very first pages of the book clearly is not enough. So he's going to kill this feathertail because it's so small and weak. Violet saves it. And then out of nowhere, the biggest damn dragon in the quadrant in like that region of the continent shows up and is like, Violet, you're mine. We're bonding now. Even at that moment, I was like, okay, I still like it. Like, it's a little too much of she's getting to be the big powerful person, even though she's in a compact package. But she still has obstacles. Like, it's not just like she immediately has ascended to being the best of the best. Mm-hmm. She still has things that she has to overcome because of her size.
Like the fact she can't even get on the dragon. He's so massive.
Yeah, his like forearm on his front leg is twice the size of her.
So Tairn. So many of the books that we read, we get, in book talk, there's shadow daddies, and they're a whole concept of
Is that your Bat Boys from ACOTAR?
Yeah, they would fall into that category. Okay. Yeah, so it's just the dark, brooding main character. So in Fourth Wing, we get 2 shadow daddies. We have Xaden, who actually wields shadows and is brooding, and
he's your stereotypical bad boy with a good heart but a dark secret.
Yes. And then we have Tairn, and he's just another different category of his own, in a way, like subcategory, because he's hilarious.
I love his interjections, because every now and again Violet will forget that she has a mental connection with this dragon now, and she'll say something and Tairn's like, I heard that.
Just like, you stupid human. No. I love it. So yeah, Violet gets her dragon, gets back to the field to show it off where all of these high-ranking people are waiting to see what comes out of the threshing. And it turns out she gets 2 dragons. So if you ever seen any concept art, or not concept art.
Fan art.
There we go. A 4th wing. And you've seen the black dragon with the gold dragon on top. Those are both hers.
Yeah, it's a bonding mark that dragons will give their riders. Is I forget exactly what it's called, but
so the signet is like the tattoo, and then their signet power comes out of that.
Yeah, and then they have to be able to control it. But she's got the black dragon with the gold on the inside.
Yeah.
It's a super cool design.
I had always assumed before reading this that like one was his and one was hers, and they like overlaid them.
That's a really cool marketing ploy to like get the romance crowd in. And like I said, 2/3 of this book is fantastic because, especially through the audiobook, which not sponsored by Audible, but maybe should be.
Yeah, we need the 3rd book.
The way it's presented through the audiobook presentation and everything, it was just so engrossing. Bravo to the narrator, which I should have wrote her name down.
It was also Rebecca.
Was it?
But a different last name. I'm so sorry.
We can edit.
Just open our phones.
Narrated by Rebecca Soler.
It's also Rebecca.
Yes, Rebecca Soler.
Told ya.
With Teddy Hamilton, who, out of respect, I'm just going to say...
Try again.
Yeah. Get some lessons, buddy. But other than that, bravo to the team that came up with that concept, because with the big shadow daddy dragon and the gold dragon on the inside, and like making people like you who are into the romantasy concept being like, oh, it's the shadow daddy's dragon and her little dragon, and they're going to be so cute together and love each other.
Oh,
and
look at them working
like
together.
It's a good way to get them in the door, and then all of a sudden you subvert expectations and you're like, look, she gets 2.
They're both hers.
And Shadow Daddy gets a blue dragon that's a girl.
He needs that.
He needs some feminine energy in his life.
He does.
So one thing I really wanted to bring up with you, which we're backtracking a little bit, is the relationship with Dane.
Ugh.
I really wanted to like how that relationship was executed, because I thought it played up the toxic relationship idea and the friend zone idea really well. I'm doing air quotes when I say friend zone, just so you know. I dig him being into Violet, but he is more interested in following the rules because reasons. Like, I don't fully understand that, besides maybe like daddy issues. It seems like could be a thing since his dad is a commander. How they worked around him seemingly touching Violet in incongruous ways, but doing the things that he does to betray her without her knowing. I don't want to maybe get too deep into that to avoid some spoilers, but
I actually, with his ability to touch someone and get their recent memories, right? Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that they specified that it was recent. He can't go back too far.
Without permission, I think.
Maybe. But that's why I went back. Once you started reading it, I wanted to reread parts of it to see if it was mentioned in some of their initial interactions. Because he was so hell-bent on, you're too fragile for this quadrant. Mm-hmm. We need to get you out of here. I wanted to see... He could have so easily just, like, touched her face or hands, whatever, and seen the directive from her mother to say, you are not going to scribe quadrant. You will go to the writer's quadrant and I will drag you back there, or else, like, it would have been problem solved. But
I think that's my biggest complaint about his storyline and his arc, is that he doesn't behave like a person. I mean, he behaves like a person, but it's the toxic person.
Yeah, those people exist.
Yeah, and I think that's where I like it, but it never, until the very end of the book, it never felt like he was crossing that boundary. Like, Violet was very much playing the victim, not in the quote unquote playing the victim part, but like, she was the victim and she was doing the thing that victims do, where they're justifying certain things because she is so invested in that relationship still for whatever reason, whether it's just loyalty to her lifelong friend, whether it's, I had feelings for this guy, but things are different now for some reason, and I can't quite put my finger on it. All those things I thought played off really well, but it felt like they were maybe a little too concerned about going too far, but maybe it's because they were holding off for that reveal at the end.
Possibly, yeah. We had to build up that dislike for him, I guess, and really get deeper into how big of a betrayal he really could be to her or make towards her.
Yeah. I liked the inclusion of a toxic relationship and not just in a seemingly just jealous should-be boyfriend kind of way, or like I've been friend zoned and fuck that other guy kind of way. Sorry, screw that other guy kind of way. I don't know if you want to make this. We're talking about Fourth Wing. They drop a whole bunch of words in there that probably shouldn't be. So yeah, I'll just leave that in. But yeah, I liked a large part of that relationship in the sense that it really portrayed a lot of authentic toxic relationship traits.
Mm-hmm. And even Xaden engineered a couple of interactions where he could have had Dane could have had redeeming qualities for himself, and he didn't take them. So I definitely had a hard time getting through some of those situations. Had to walk away from them. But one of the things that I was mulling over, since we are introduced to Dane's father towards the end of the book, was Dane just brought up that way and he wants to do Daddy proud? Or is he really in that deep where he is on this probably corrupt, righteous side of the political spectrum here?
That is one of the big questions, is how deep does this cover-up go? Who's involved and what are their intentions with why they're covering it up? Because as is tradition with a lot of these books, is the actual plot of the story doesn't happen until the last like 5 chapters.
Right.
And I was absolutely fine with the military school stuff. Like that was the strongest stuff for me, because Violet training, becoming a different person, having one of the things they talk about is that the school, the quadrant kind of chisels away the excess of you and breaks you down to who you truly are at your core. I liked a lot of that because it's part of the military training. Like this is essentially a military school, and that's kind of what the military is designed to do. Although they're more designed to break you down to the point where you just take orders and follow them.
Yeah, what I've heard on our military or most real world military concepts is breaking down the individual to build up the group. So you have more of that instinctive hive mind in a way, where I don't know that you could say that for the Riders Quadrant.
It's very much more about proving yourself to the dragons, and the dragons will essentially formulate you into that.
I mean, they're still running flying maneuvers and stuff like that so that they get comfortable with each other, but the dragons know everyone. They're centuries old, some of them, or getting close to. So it's just building that new bond that they have to deal with. But I thought it was interesting. We get introduced right off the bat to Violet's sister, Mira, and she's very strongly worded about don't make friends, make acquaintances, don't make friends. And immediately Violet does the exact opposite.
She makes 2 friends immediately, one of which doesn't make it. The other one is the other one is a lifelong friend at this point, if you consider the school year a lifelong partnership or whatever you want to do, which for this school it might as well be.
May as well. Yeah, so rebel from the start. We like that.
It's also the trope of person tells character not to do thing, character goes and does the thing, because either the plot dictates they have to, or just like they forget the rules.
But it really gives us a right off the get-go understanding of who Violet is. Time and time again, she's like, I'm going to sacrifice just enough to help other people out. Mm-hmm. And it builds and builds and builds until she's about to lose one of her closest friends in a free fall. And that was the most heart-pounding moment for me.
That was before the twist that you're referring to?
Yes. So
that I have that written down as my note. Chapter 28, quote unquote, lightning wielder goddamn, what a chapter. That is my note. That was like, I literally stopped. I listened to the audiobook at work, and I literally just stopped what I was doing, and I just was listening, and I'm just like, don't bother me. Hold on.
Yes, but using our little golden dragon's gifts in order to save Liam, like, you had no idea if she was going to make it or not. You were hoping, because she has this talent of slowing down time with the use of Endarna, beautiful Endarna. But you had no idea until it was over if he was going to be safe. And I think part of that, not to go right into it, but like getting that opportunity to save Liam, and then all of their interactions of him bodyguarding Violet throughout each chapter, and they're just hilarious interactions. He's like the big brother she's missing, you know,
but he's also Lothario, so he just like flaunts his loosey-goosiness of
he's
everything.
Just like, whatever, like, you're not mine, you're never gonna be, so we're just gonna be chill and just however.
The moment when Violet's training with Rhiannon, and Violet's just venting to Rhiannon about how Liam is just constantly there no matter how great he is, and he goes, appreciate it. That was great.
Yeah,
that felt like a real world moment. But that's also one of the things that, I don't know if it's the narration of the book or if it's just my expectation of the book. I think the biggest thing that really held me back early on listening to the book is that I don't fully understand, is this like a Tolkien kind of world where it's just like a whole new, this is Middle Earth, we never really get the name of the country, do we?
We get there, yeah, there's some regions. They're in Navarre, right?
Navarre, that's right. Maybe because it's just an American accent reading the book.
Maybe.
I just felt like
you have to have that
like a
English accent.
Yeah, part of me was just like, is this a dystopian future where dragons emerged and now there's different continents and different names?
You didn't look up a map?
I didn't look up a map, no. I'll have to do that after we're done recording. But I think the American accent threw me off, especially because they're dropping F-bombs and they're talking in a pretty modern way. Whereas usually a story like this will have like an English narrator or someone just kind of putting a little more fantastical twist on the way things are said. I don't know. It just took me a minute to get used to how millennial the narrator sounded with the dialogue, that I was just like, is this supposed to be our world with dragons? What are we doing here? And that was something that it took me a minute.
Yeah, the names are pretty fresh, I would say. Some of them I didn't catch the first time through listening to them. Either just a quick pronunciation of it and missed it, or got distracted by something in the moment, because who knows. But yeah, they do mention like where they end up towards the end, because that's outside of their
borders.
Warded borders, yeah. But yeah, so all these things with Liam building up, the fact that he was able to be saved this one time, I think all culminates in how emotional his passing is then at the end.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Tearing up just
especially because it's not because they couldn't save him, it's because they couldn't save his dragon.
His dragon, right.
And that really makes it feel like inconsequential almost. Where if they would have saved his dragon or found a way to save his dragon and just sacrifice Liam, like, things could be a little different because they'd have one more dragon on their side, but they don't have that personal relationship with the dragon outside of the fact that we need dragons to protect our borders.
Yeah, that was very sad to experience the consequences of that bond. I think that's the opening line, right? The rider without his dragon.
I think so, yeah. A dragon will live on without its rider, but a rider without its dragon is dead.
Yeah.
Something to that effect, yeah. So we've danced around it a little bit. I need to hear your thoughts on the Xaden-Violet relationship.
Like you said, besides the actual intimacy scenes
There are two of them, and they're both 15 minutes in the audiobook.
Yeah.
Each, not combined.
Right. I think it would have been just as powerful as a character building, relationship building if it were Fade to Black.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been fine. And, maybe we come back to it, like make it a chapter break or something, and, make it a little more conversational than... Because it wasn't even like Game of Thrones where all the naked scenes are conversation driving the plot. Scenarios. Like, it wasn't even that.
I think
she just destroyed the buildings with her lightning.
She blew out a window. She broke her armoire. Which I think that's kind of the big point of it. It was to convey even their combined strength. Like, look at how strong they are when they're passionate. Look how strong you think they could be together on a battlefield. So I think maybe that it could be some foreshadowing, but again, that's something, to your point, that as you fade back in from the moment, you could be like, oh, sorry about your armoire. Oh, sorry, I blew out your window.
Yeah. Outside of that, wonderful interactions, just, bickering, side-eye. That first real long interaction that they had where he stepped in to be her, what's the term they used? Where they were on the mat. And so she, with her poisons for her, where she was able to poison them to weaken them. And that there was the one time where she did it too soon and the person was away at the infirmary or whatever.
Yep.
So Xaden stepped in.
Yeah, that's also the chapter that they put in as a bonus chapter from Xaden's perspective as well, if I remember. It's very Jess and Rory in those moments.
Right, exactly. And they just bicker back and forth, but he, at that point at least, because he cuts through her bullshit pretty quickly, especially once we get his perspective for those last two bonus chapters, you can tell that he's really good at analyzing a full situation and understanding what his options for reactions are. And the whole interaction we get on the mat there where he's teaching her that she's too predictable and her weakness is not a weakness. Her fragility is not a weakness. She shouldn't be told that. She could easily overpower anyone if she just uses who she is.
Yeah, he makes a point of saying that she's using the wrong fighting style. She's fighting like a bigger person where she needs to fight like a smaller, faster person.
Right. Another dig at Dane because he taught her all that.
Yeah, they've never really trained someone her size, so they don't know how to train someone that's small and agile to not be big and brutal. The last thing I'm going to try to say about this relationship is I really hate the nickname. He makes a point of saying that Violet is too soft of a name for someone like her, and so he starts calling her Violence, which maybe on paper sounds better than it does being heard or said. Violence, it's not really a nickname, it's not really a nickname in that sense for me. But also there's a scene later in the book where they're having this big fight because the twist has been revealed, and he keeps calling her Violence in this moment. I get that in the book that is his name for her. Like, he has dubbed her Violence. Your name is Violence to me.
Yeah, the first thing he saw her do was hold that knife at Jack Barlow's ball sack. So
but she's never really like adopted that name other than...
Yeah, she told him that she didn't like it.
Yeah, and so in this moment, this is more me nitpicking the story element than anything, because in that moment, if he was trying to be sincere with her and convey the urgency, he needed to cut off his bullshit and stop calling her Violence and be like, it could have been just a really subtle way to convey that, where he's, instead of calling her Violence, he's calling her Violet. He's calling her by her name that she prefers over his nickname, or at least I don't know if she prefers it. They don't know. They never go that far, but I think it's a really subtle storytelling mechanic that instead of him being like, Violence, just shut up and listen to me, Violence. But instead he's like, Violet, please understand. And she can have a moment of like, Violet, he never calls me Violet. Really quick and subtle thing that clicks something for her. But no, he has to go through this really extended argument, continuing to call her Violence, which almost feels like he's gaslighting her at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if obviously I don't know, if there was some sort of deeper meaning there that was trying to be conveyed. Because I feel over and over he tries to push her on purpose, which I had an issue understanding. Their signet power is supposed to come from something within them, something that is...
It's a core value of them, or like them. It is like their core essence, essentially.
So Dane needing to know recent memories, like that makes sense for him because he's nosy, brown noser,
a rule follower.
Business, rule follower. Rhiannon, she can move things through
space and time. Yeah, or space, yeah, not time.
Yeah. So something about with her family being able to cross distances or something like that, like that makes sense with her. Xaden with the shadows, with his background, which I don't think we actually have gotten into here, what the like main critical issue is, which we can circle back in just a moment.
I'm at the end of my notes. Yeah, we're basically doing what you want to do here.
But the lightning from Violet, I don't fully understand where that comes from.
I assume it's her potential that is like manifested by Taryn. So like Taryn and Xaden see her for who she is and who she can be. And so the lightning is kind of like a manifestation of who she will become through these books. Right now, by the end of the book, she sees it more as like a curse because her nickname from Xaden is Violence, and death seems to follow her wherever she goes, even when she's not intending it to. And she has that big like moment of self-doubt the first time she ever kills someone, which is the end of chapter 28, which I mentioned. Jack Barlow gets his comeuppance, which I'm also not entirely sold that he's not gone, because no body, no death. That's the comic book rule. That's the superhero way. And these are kind of superhero stories in a way. So there's no body. Maybe he's not quite gone yet. Maybe he pulls a mountain or something and gets resurrected by some bad guys.
We don't know what his signet is, do we? I don't think so.
And he's a giant asshole, so he probably has something that'll combat her lightning if he's back in some fashion.
Sure.
But the whole thing with her powers with lightning, I just assumed that it is based more on who she will become, because the all-powerful dragons, and Xaden seems to have this weird insight to who she truly is without her even knowing herself.
Yeah, that's true. So the main critical plot driver here, there was a war that Xaden's father was the leader of, or a
rebellion.
Rebellion. I was going to say civil war, but that's not quite right. And they seem to be mostly concentrated to one town, from what I understand. There were some others, but mostly from one town. And this rebellion was put down by the current people who are still in power. And the final order came from Violet's mom. So parents, anyone who was actively involved in the rebellion, were immediately put to death. Children were marked with a relic, a tattoo that's visible, and were required to apply to the Rider's Quadrant.
Which is a like 50% death sentence. Like 50% of you will survive, 50% of you won't. Which that felt weird to me as well, because it's like, you're kids who had nothing to do, or presumably had nothing to do with the rebellion. Even though we will be racist and prejudiced against you, we're going to offer you a chance to rise up and become like the most powerful people in our land. that felt strange.
Right. It's either, they get access to all of this power and training, and I'm assuming they were just hopeful that they would be the ones to die.
Yeah. And that part was also actually negotiated, if I remember, by Xaden. And he even took it upon himself to be like cursed in a way that there are 107 children that were alive at the time that were cast into this program, or will be cast into the program. And if any of them betray the Imperium, he will die no matter what.
Yeah. So they didn't say come out right and say how long it's been, but they did say that the youngest was was it 6 or 8?
Yeah, they were pretty young, and the end of the rebellion was like 6 years ago.
Okay.
Because that's her brother Brennan.
Brennan.
It was Brandon. Brennan. Brennan. Thank you. I thought you said Brian.
No.
Yeah, Brennan died 6 years ago, and that's where Xaden and Violet also have their big to do, is the fact that Xaden's dad is the one who killed Brennan.
And so that's why this year in the Rioters Quadrant is such a big deal, with Violet showing up as the youngest daughter of General Sorengale, and she has a big target on her back
because she's a nepo baby, and because obviously anyone with a rebel relic is going to be gunning for her as well.
Mm-hmm.
And she's so small and tiny, no one thinks she can defend herself, or at least they presume she can't.
So Violet has been at Beskayeth even before she entered the Riders Quadrant. I think they'd been there 2 or 3 years already. Yeah,
they've been there a fair amount of time.
At least, because her dad was training her within the Scribe Quadrant in a way, pre-training her. She spent a lot of time there. That's where she was destined, she thought, to be. But what I got to thinking about was, in those 2 years, because Xaden is a third year, so he's been in the Riders Quadrant for 2 years. But when Mira mentions Xaden, and when she runs into him at the top of the parapet, she seems thrown off guard. Like, I feel like it should have been already mentioned that
it would make sense that she would know that he's there and like survived, because she's been there a while. But I forget how long it had been since her dad died. I think they said it was a little after Brennan died. So maybe just her mom being as stoic as she is, she just didn't feel like sharing that information, or maybe she wasn't allowed to.
She was studying things that were happening, reports that were coming back, and I guess those were from outside the walls and not from within the school itself. Yeah. So
it is a good question to ask. Next time we go to a Comic-Con and Rebecca Yaros is there, you can ask her. No, I'm not going to nitpick your story.
And speaking of her mom, we don't get too many interactions with her. All of them are cold. All of them are short on words. I don't know what side she is on.
I think that's probably one of the most intriguing parts of this.
I don't know if she's playing a double agent kind of deal between the rebellion and since she is such a high-ranking general, or if she really is that cold.
To me, it feels like she's playing the doing the wrong thing for the right reasons card. Like, she's heartbroken her son died. She's heartbroken that her husband died shortly thereafter. The only thing she has left is her pride, essentially. And her pride is her eldest daughter, who is a dragon rider. And there's a reason why she did not want Violet to become a scribe, which by the end of the book maybe becomes a little bit more obvious. Like, maybe she was hoping that Violet would either die or ascend to a rider and kind of become part of that military hive mind kind of thing, or group mind, and kind of buy into whatever's happening. But what side of the line her mom lies on truly, and what her motivations were for everything, is one of the reasons why I'm really excited to get into Iron Flame when we can.
Yeah, there has to be some underlying reason, and I can't figure out from the little bit that we know so far. So coming down to it, the twist, as you've been calling it, where you find out right at the end that Brennan is still alive.
That was so good. Well, the twist for me was the not White Walkers, the Venin.
Oh, the Venin.
Yeah, the Venin. And
I don't even care about them right now.
The twist that I've been referring to is that Xaden has been him and his village, and like even back when the rebellion was happening, essentially it's a White Walker situation where they know that these mythical creatures of pure evil are coming, and they have Wyvern, which are what Daenerys had even. Like they're not quite dragons. They're the dragons that have the two forearms that are also wings. These things are alive and they're coming after all magic users and dragons to kill everything.
Yeah, they create their wyverns, so they can create as many as their magic can allow. So they are the source of magic. So it goes down to the fables that she kept referencing. She needs to read that book. So you have the Griffin Riders and you have the Dragon Riders, and then you have these Venin who they wanted the magic for themselves. So it's like the magic is within a human being and has corrupted them into this
White Walker-esque kind of person, but they've got like red veins and stuff because of the magic is corrupting them. It's a really cool visual and really engaging concept that the magic can, if humans were to just take on magic themselves, they would become corrupted, which I think is a really cool concept.
Yeah, that has a lot of
allegorical.
Yeah, for sure.
So Brennan is alive.
Brennan's alive. So my first question was, Jack Barlow, that asshole, he must not have been on the inside crowd to know that Brennan was alive, because I feel like his approach to Violet would have been way different.
More psychological than physical.
Yeah. Like there's no way that as a rebellion kid with a relic, that if he had known Brennan personally and had heard his stories and got to know him, that he would have gone after Violet at all. So there's some sort of organizational structure within the rebellion, whether only a select few people can know that he's still alive because they've pushed out that he died. And then that goes into two ideas, one for each of the parents then. So General Sorengale, she must be told the lie. I don't think she knows. They talked about her mourning.
And he's a valuable asset too, because he's a high-end healer.
But I think that her dad found out. He may have been told the lie at first, but I think he found out, and that's why he's dead now.
And he died of a sickness, so maybe he got poisoned or something. I like it.
I think maybe he was part of the rebellion in a way, and this is where it gets fuzzy on what side General Sorengale is on. Do we know her first name?
We'll call her Helen.
Sure.
Usually those military moms are called Helen.
Oh no. That's why I can't decide what side of the fence she's on, because their bond seemed to be pretty good as husband and wife. They seem to have a really good relationship. In the couple of lines that we really get,
it's Lilith.
Oh, that's not Helen. So I don't know, they seem to have a really genuine relationship in the little bits that we get about them together. So if he was part of this rebellion on the down low and then got caught and tangled up in something and died, I feel like she would know. So she either found out and was like, don't let me know anything else, because there are people like Dane who can find these things out.
Yeah.
Or he had to keep it completely a secret from her, or she's tied into it too. There's so many questions. So many questions in that. Mira definitely does not know. Absolutely
not. She wouldn't hate Zayden as much, and she wouldn't be as prejudiced towards the relic kids as she is.
Don't think she could keep a secret.
That too.
Yeah, one other thing that we have not talked about at all, which I found so interesting, that they were mentioned so often, yet we got nothing of substance from them, are the gods.
Yeah, and that was part of the structure that threw me off when I was trying to understand like the world building of, is this like a dystopian post-apocalyptic dragons a real kind of thing, or is this a new world, a new fantasy world? So they have their own gods, and like it's almost like a Roman or Greek kind of thing where they have different gods for different aspects of life.
Right. So the ones that we hear about, the one we hear about, I think first, I could be wrong, is Amari. She likens Rhiannon to Amari, who's the the queen of all the gods. Dark skin, dark hair, just absolutely stunning. I don't know that she's brought up again after that, but we know that Rhiannon looks like her. So that I thought was interesting. They definitely have varying skin tones throughout here. We have different climates that we talk about, cold weather, hot desert, and all that. The one we hear most often is Malik, who is the god of death. So they read the death toll every morning, and their souls are given over to Malik.
And their possessions as well. One of the traditions they have is you burn or bury the body, and you get rid of all their stuff immediately.
That's so wild to me.
No mementos amongst
no
this
hoarders.
The only memories are the ones you keep.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
Or mementos, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, no diaries, no journals, no...
Yeah, because it's a big deal that one of the things...
They have pictures.
One of the things Violet gets is from Mira is a diary that Brennan had made for Mira when she went into the Rider military school, and Mira adds her own things in. But because it was Brennan's, the fact that it still exists is a big deal because it should have been burned the minute they found out he was dead. Mm-hmm. But maybe that's a clue that Mira does know that he's alive.
Oh, legit. I don't know. I still don't think she could keep it secret.
I think it was more she was just trying to help her sister that's been forced into this
And technically she added her own notes, so it's hers now.
True.
Yeah, I did look some of the other ones. So we have Dune, the god of war, Zinhal, the god of luck, and Hedion, god of wisdom. Sorry.
I'm going to say Hedion because your wisdom's stored in your head.
Oh, okay. And Loyal. Oh, I didn't say that out loud before. Is the god of love. Loial. Loyal?
Loyal.
God of love. Interesting. They have to play a more significant role going forward here. There has to be something else.
There could be something to the religious hierarchy.
They're just mentioned, but I think that they really are more Greek-like, that they actually interact with people. Mm-hmm. There are priestesses and temples and all this devotional stuff. And since we're in Violet's head, we get evidence that she's really deep into this. She knows her stuff really well.
Mm-hmm. Because that's one thing that I do think they break away from a lot of the tropiness of the protagonist in this sense, where you would think the protagonist would be like either just more agnostic or just outright atheist and being like, I'm in my books, I don't see any evidence of gods, yet you guys are here talking about the god of luck and whatever. But no, like you said, she's very much like, God of luck be with me.
All right, so let's dig into our adaptation a little bit and what we think. We know so far the pilot script is done. There's going to be 8 episodes. I honestly don't think that we can get a good story in 8 episodes for the first book. They have to spread it across the first book again. Maybe not like precisely, but across two seasons.
It depends on how long the episodes are. I think if they're pretty consistently an hour to like an hour and 20, I think they could do a pretty decent adaptation and get a lot of that stuff in there. They probably will plan on either montaging or skipping through a lot of the day-to-day stuff that I think plays to the strength of the book, because it's world building, it's character building. This is a very character driven story until the final 5 chapters of the book. So I think if it is just, well, episode 1 is the parapet, episode 2 is training, episode 3 is threshing, episode 4 is bonding, and they're just kind of hitting these beats, you're going to miss a lot of the character building stuff. And so I think to your point, yeah, if they rush it, it could be really bad. Or maybe not bad, but just lacking. If they split book 1 into 2 seasons, I would hope that allows them a way to maybe minimize the gap between the seasons that we've been getting with the streaming stuff. Not to get too talking smack into this one, but we've had it happen where we've just fallen off shows because the gap in the seasons is so long and we don't remember what's going on. I think we had that happen with Lord of the Rings. Like, we're just like, don't care anymore.
Right.
I think that's one thing that really needs to be considered with this book is that time spent with those characters is really important, because you can convey the core essence of the character. Liam is a loyal Lothario. You've got Rhiannon, who's a badass with a heart of gold. You've got all these characters that you can break them down really easily into a caricature, but you're not going to get the relationship depth. And I don't think the Xaden and Violet relationship is going to carry this show in a way that the ensemble does.
Agreed.
Because like maybe not 2/3, but almost half of this book as well is just little snippets and peppering of Xaden into Violet's day-to-day life. She's very much just trying to survive, and Xaden is just there every now and again to like chime in and tell Dane to stop being a dick and like encourage her instead of trying to put her down.
Yeah, they're going to have to expand the conversations for sure. Part of those conversations, though, are done, after she gets her dragons, they're done within their heads. And that's where I don't know how they're going to be able to convey that without
to do a Veronica Mars
being so cringy. There's two things that could go real awkward, in my opinion. The telepathic communication between those two, because their dragons are connected. Mm-hmm. So they're connected inside their brains. And she talks about these door pathways that she sees within these communication streams. She has one to Tairn, she has one to Endarna, she has one to Xaden. And being able to mentally see those and communicate them with them in those ways, they're going to have to figure out something else or just simple it down. The other thing is Xaden's shadow essence. That could come off real weird.
Real bad. They should take a page out of the Thunderbolts / the New Avengers movie with the Void, and hopefully it looks something like that, because that was a really good effect. I know you haven't seen it yet, but just trust me.
Okay. Here you go. Just steal that idea. Perfect.
There you go.
I also don't think that we are unfortunately going to see the dragons as much as we do in the books.
Depending on the budget, yeah.
Especially if they have to save it up for this Venom Wyvern mega battle at the end. Mm-hmm. Luckily, there is a lot of conversation that is just done over distance telepathically between them all. But yeah, there's a lot between meeting the dragons right after the parapet, the walk that they have, all of the flying lessons is a lot.
Not only that, but like once she gets her signet and she is able to throw lightning, there's a whole 3 or 4 chapters of training that she goes through. And again, you can montage that or pass it away with some dialogue where you're just like, oh, Professor what's his face is driving me up a wall because he keeps telling me to aim and I can't aim. And you can save some budget that way, but you're losing out on a lot of the character stuff because you're seeing Violet respond to failing in something that she never anticipated she would ever be doing. And you can work your way around certain aspects like that, but it's not as impactful without seeing it, instead of seeing it after the fact and just her being frustrated and venting to Rhiannon or Liam or anyone like that.
I just hope that Endarna looks adorable.
Yes.
She needs to look perfect.
I think that's, if I have a single line of the book that is my favorite, it's when Tairn says something to Violet. I can't remember exactly what, but it's just some snarky, cynical bullshit. And she just goes, Endarna's my favorite, you know. She just pulls that card right out.
Yeah, she has to be everyone's favorite. Do you have a favorite character?
I like Violet. I think she feels like a real character. Like the perspective that she offers as this person who is planning on growing up and becoming essentially a librarian and then gets thrust into the Marine Corps, for lack of a better term, is really interesting. And how how Rebecca Yarros portrays her and how she perceives the situations and how she's processing. It feels very authentic to what a person from that perspective would do. And If I can't say our main protagonist of the story, Violet is my favorite character, I would have to say probably Taryn. I do like his cynicism and his little interjections, because he's like, you forgot to close the door and I'm still here.
Yeah, Taryn is definitely my favorite. Well, that whole like family unit, can I count them as one?
Is it Segal?
Segale. Zayden's dragon.
Yeah, we don't get a whole lot with her.
Oh, but she just has just as much sass. If she has to be in Zayden's head all the time.
She says so much with only tilting her head. Exactly. She tilted her head at me, just so you know. It's the wife tilt.
Yeah, I mean, she is essentially at the top of the food chain within all the dragons. So maybe not entirely, but she says that she is, and she does what she wants. I love it. That little family unit is just perfect.
And Andarna is absolutely adorable.
I can't wait to hear more of Andarna's story, because she's not their actual child.
Yeah, she's adopted, essentially.
She's adopted.
She was taken in by their dragon herd, and they've just all kind of connected to each other really strongly.
There's something there. One last little thing that I looked up, do you have anything else about the adaptation?
I hope it's good. My only real concern until we get anywhere is I want them to really advertise this and not just have it be another piece of content, because there's a lot of diversity in this cast of characters, and they need to showcase that in the actual cast. But we're in a place where having a diverse cast is immediately seen as bad now for some reason. I really hope that Amazon is not afraid to properly advertise this show and just doesn't dump it because they bought the rights to it and they needed to produce something.
Yeah, there's some very specific descriptions of each of the characters. We really get a lot of skin tones, hair colors for all of them. So hopefully they stick pretty close to all that.
You hope so. And Rebecca Yarros seems to be fairly involved, so you would hope she wouldn't compromise her vision just because Amazon threw a bunch of money at her. But the James Bond family did, so
right.
Who knows?
She did mention in that same interview that I mentioned earlier, they have not started casting yet. But there was a thing about some Australian actor who was not fully answering questions. So I'm assuming he's hoping he's at least in the running.
If he's being directly asked about it, he probably had something leaked where he went to a casting call at least.
Yeah.
So I guess that's one question I would have for you is, do you have like a specific voice for these characters in mind? Like, would you be more inclined to be immersed in this world if they had like British or Polynesian accents? Or do you think you could still be immersed in it if they had Midwestern accents or some kind of just standard American accent?
I think it would be cool if they all had different accents, if it was as diverse as the skin tones that Rebecca describes them all being. It would make some sense that they would be
different dialects.
Yeah. I'm not sure that, I don't think there's any mention of other languages though, so that might be a little strange.
Everyone seems to speak the same language, at least in that area. Novar.
Yeah, it's definitely not English though, because they talk about it being translated. I don't think I have anything really preset. Sometimes I do if I read the physical book, but the audio book kind of separated that for me.
Like I said, that created a barrier for me for probably the first 4 hours of listening.
So I did want to read. I know I kind of tuned it out a little bit or forgot about it once we got into the chapters, but right up front on the very first page is a little dedication that they start with.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
No.
So
Brennan's alive. How am I supposed to remember anything else after that?
Hopefully it's okay. So I'm going to read just this first bit here. The following text has been faithfully transcribed from Navarian into the modern language by Jacinia Neilwart, curator of the Scribe Quadrant at Bezgayath War College. All events are true, and names have been preserved to honor the courage of those fallen. May their souls be commended to Malik.
Oh, I forgot about that context. Is Jacinia the girl with the...
Yes.
She signs?
Yes. She's the one that...
Liam had a crush on.
Yeah. It was one of her best friends
that went
before
off into
she
the
moved over.
college. Yeah.
Yeah. And so...
She's going to play a bigger role coming up.
Yeah, she has to be involved. So she's writing all this down. So immediately I thought, she's been writing everything that Violet's been telling her every day when she goes to pick up the books.
That also alludes to a dark end for Violet and Xaden, possibly.
Right? Yes. So immediately, as soon, because I started the audiobook over and was like, what? All events are true, and names have been preserved to honor the courage of those fallen.
Which, like, we know Liam, at least through the first book.
Everyone dies.
Or at least a fair portion of them.
Everyone dies.
I think Rhiannon lives. Rhiannon can't go.
Everyone dies.
Okay, Game of Thrones.
I really think so. We're in for a long, sad story.
If it's done well, it can be impactful and powerful. So I'm in for it. So
it's gonna be. I didn't say it was gonna be a bad story. It's just gonna be.
It'll be sad. But
my heart's
but powerful and hopeful at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think the only other question we have at this point is, do we wait for season 1 of Fourth Wing to come out to do Iron Flame, or how would you want to go about continuing this series for this podcast?
I was gonna go start it tomorrow. I've been waiting.
And then we just sit on the episode until Iron Flame season 2 comes out?
No, we can't do that. No. You're just getting this one.
And then we continue in our private lives, and maybe we can do a Talking Smack if they ever get beyond a season 1.
We'll do a reactionary one once the seasons are done.
Okay, fine.
Perfect. I love it. So to close out here, I have a task for you. I want you to read this line in character for me.
In character. Okay, do I know what character it is?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. It's like you read my notes before I even gave them to you.
I did not.
Am I doing it in character as like the narrator did, or like however I would have...
How you would do it.
Going for blood today, are we, Violence? So real quick before we get out of here, we do not have any social medias for Talking BAK yet, but we will create a channel within the Talking Smack Discord. So if you want to share your thoughts, opinions of the podcast, as well as Fourth Wing, or you want to suggest future books, hit us up in the Talking BAK chat room. I don't know what you call them in Discord, because the Talking Smack channel has sub channels, I guess. So submit those in Talking Smack's sub channel of Talking BAK. And you can follow Ricky on Tome.
Let's connect on Tome. If you don't know it, this is a new home for all book-loving people. Tome, Tome. They're fairly new. They just came out in February. And it's just a really great book community.
I don't think I've ever seen you so excited about posting on any kind of social media website.
I just never realized that there were so many people who think like me. Yeah, you can find me at Chibi Ricky on Tome. Come find me. I'll follow you back.
And we'll pin that in the Talking BAK Discord sub-channel for the Talking Smack Discord channel, if that's not confusing enough. But with that, going for blood today, Violence? Or going for blood today, are we, Violence?
Anyhow, the books. Are you seeing the books? Everything you would want to read is right here. Feel it. Feels good, right? Now smell it. Nothing smells like that.